The $9,200 Judith Lieber crystal clutch smashed into Kalia James's mouth, splitting her lip. Blood hit her tongue as she crashed into a tower of champagne flutes, glass exploding across the Astoria Crown Hotel marble. For a moment, the entire ballroom went silent. Kalia looked up from the floor and saw Grant Weller, her ex-fiancé, the man who stole her savings, disappeared while she was pregnant, and left her to lose everything. He smiled like she was still the girl he broke. "Stay down where you belong," he said, loud enough for people to hear, and quiet enough that nobody stepped in. Then an elegant older Korean woman knelt beside Kalia, gripping her wrist under the tablecloth like a handcuff. "Just for tonight," she whispered, breath scented with expensive jasmine. "Be my son's wife." Kalia's eyes snapped toward the head table. A Korean man in a black suit stood up, tall, cold, untouchable. Kang Junseo. The air shifted as if the room belonged to him. "In 5 minutes, his mother murmured, Brooklyn's family will test him. If they realize he's not married, they start a war. And they'll use you to do it." Junseo's footsteps crossed the marble, slow, inevitable. He stopped in front of Kalia, eyes on the blood at her lip. Then he looked at Grant. And Kalia understood. Too late. That Grant didn't know who she was anymore. But he was about to. Before we dive deeper, subscribe to Revenge Cafe and turn on notifications, because this isn't just a fake marriage. It's a death sentence waiting for one wrong move. But to understand how Kalia ended up bleeding on a billionaire's floor, we need to go back to the first time she trusted Grant Weller. Kalia James used to believe love was something you proved. Not with poetry, not with big gestures. With groceries, with rent, with staying when it got inconvenient. That belief wasn't random. It was cultural. It was the way her mother and aunties talked, half warning, half prayer, about how black women learned to carry entire households on their backs and still smile at church. Kalia was the reliable one, the one who took extra shifts, paid her own tuition, kept her edges neat even when her bank account wasn't. The one who could shoot a wedding on Saturday, edit all night, and still show up Sunday morning with a pressed blouse and a calm face. 3 years ago, she was living in Los Angeles, Koreatown, in a small upstairs apartment that smelled like laundry soap and instant coffee. She worked 2 jobs, weekday photography assistant work, weekend gigs, events, birthdays, low-budget music video shoots, anything that paid. And she was engaged to Grant Weller. Grant had the kind of charm that made strangers assume he was good, the kind that disarmed your gut feeling. He always had an excuse. Why he couldn't keep a job, why he needed time, why the world didn't understand his vision. Kalia tried to be the woman who supported a man's dream. She paid their rent while he networked. She bought his suits for interviews he didn't go to. She covered his car note because he needed transportation. She told herself it was temporary. She even let him use her account, just until he got his own card. She thought love meant teamwork. Grant treated it like a donation. The betrayal didn't come with a dramatic fight. It came with a notification on her phone at 6:13 a.m., while the sun was barely up and her apartment was still cool from the night. Withdrawal, $38,420.77. Kalia stared at the screen, so long her eyes watered. It had to be fraud. She called the bank, heart racing, one hand shaking as she held the phone. The customer service rep confirmed it. Calm voice, practiced empathy. It was authorized by an account user. Kalia whispered, "Which user?" A pause. Keyboard clicks. Grant Weller. Her chest went hollow. When she turned, Grant's side of the bed was empty. His dresser drawer open. His cologne gone. Her laptop bag gone. Like he had packed while she slept. Like she was nothing. She ran through the apartment, bare feet slapping cold tile, checking closets, checking the bathroom, like her panic could physically make him appear. Then she saw it. A single envelope on the kitchen counter. Not a note. Not an apology. A bill. Her own credit card statement. Printed out, circled in red. Where she'd bought prenatal vitamins. Where she'd bought tiny baby socks. Because yes, she was pregnant. For months along. She hadn't told anyone yet except Grant. She'd been scared and happy at the same time. Scared because money was tight. Happy because in her mind, this would make him grow up. This would make them a family. Grant had waited until she was far enough along to feel safe. Then he emptied her account and vanished anyway. Kalia didn't just lose money. She lost stability. And the city didn't pause because she was grieving. Clients stopped calling when she missed gigs. Her landlord posted notices. Her friends got quiet. And once people sensed desperation, they started offering advice instead of help. By month 5, Kalia was sleeping in her car, parked under a streetlight because darkness felt like a threat. By month 6, she was in a charity clinic bathroom with a paper gown stuck to her skin, sweating, trembling, trying to breathe through pain that felt like her body was being ripped open. The nurse kept saying, "I'm sorry." The doctor kept saying, "Sometimes it happens." But Kalia heard the truth underneath. "You're alone." Blood on cold tile. A sink that smelled like bleach. Her own sobs bouncing off the walls. She lost the baby. Alone. And she walked out holding a bag of pamphlets and grief, so heavy it changed the way she stood. That night in her car, she thought about letting it end her. Then something else rose up, hotter than sadness. Anger. Not the sloppy kind. The clean, focused kind. She whispered into the dark, "You don't get to take my life too." Kalia rebuilt from nothing the same way she'd always survived. Work first, feelings later. She edited photos for strangers on cheap freelance sites. She shot events she used to turn down. She saved every dollar. She learned to live on less than she deserved because it was safer than hoping. And eventually, when she could finally breathe again, she took an out-of-state assignment through a catering company connection. Manhattan. One night. Big pay. A birthday eve dinner for someone so protected their name wasn't on the contract. Kalia told herself it was just a job, just a camera, just a room full of rich people. She didn't know this someone was Kang Jinseo, a man whose power wasn't loud, but absolute. She didn't know his mother was looking for a woman who couldn't be bought. She didn't know Grant Weller would be there, wearing a tux paid for with the life he stole from her. She didn't know she would bleed on marble again. And she definitely didn't know that when she finally met Kang Jinseo's eyes across that ballroom, dark, unreadable, locked on her like a decision. The real danger wasn't the men with guns. It was the fact that, for the first time in 3 years, Kalia felt seen. Kang Jinseo didn't rescue Kalia like a hero. He claimed space around her like a man used to controlling outcomes. When he reached her, he didn't ask if she was okay with words meant for comfort. He asked it like an order. "Look at me," he said low. Kalia lifted her gaze because something in her knew not to refuse him in front of his people. His eyes went to her lip. The blood, the swelling already starting. Then his gaze slid past her, straight to Grant. The room held its breath. Jinseo didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Who did that?" he asked. Grant's smile tightened, like he'd misjudged the moment. "It was an accident." Jinseo cut him off with a look. It wasn't rage. It was worse. It was certainty. His mother, Madame Kang, stepped in smoothly, her hand still wrapped around Kalia's wrist beneath the tablecloth. She fell, Madame Kang said, sweet as poison. Kalia's head snapped toward her. Madame Kang's nails pressed in slightly, warning her not to expose family strategy in public. Jinseo didn't believe it. Kalia could see that. But he didn't contradict his mother in front of outsiders either. He did something else. He offered his hand to Kalia. Not gentle. Not romantic. Formal. Public. A signal. Kalia took it because she understood power even if she didn't understand his world. When he pulled her up, her knees wobbled. He steadied her with a hand at her waist that lingered 1 second too long. It wasn't affection. It was possession. And Kalia hated that her body reacted anyway. Heat flickering low in her stomach. The pull of danger that always felt like attraction until it hurt you. Madame Kang leaned close to Kalia's ear. "Smile," she whispered. "Brooklyn is watching." Kalia's pulse jumped. "Brooklyn?" "In 5 minutes," Madame Kang said. "They'll come test him." Kalia's mouth went dry. "Test how?" Madame Kang's eyes stayed calm. "They'll ask questions only a wife can answer." Kalia stared at her. "I'm not." Madame Kang tightened her grip. "Just for tonight," she said. "Be his wife." Kalia wanted to laugh, wanted to scream, wanted to run. But then she saw the men posted at the exits. Black suits, blank faces, hands too still at their sides. Not hotel security. Something else. And Kalia realized a sick truth. She wasn't free to walk out anymore. Junseo guided her toward the head table like it was nothing, like he hadn't just rewritten her night with one movement of his hand. The table was a kingdom, black linens, gold-rimmed plates, crystal glasses that glittered under chandelier light. The air smelled like truffle butter, expensive perfume, and Junseo's cologne, cedar and sandalwood, clean and sharp. Kalia sat where he placed her. Beside him, a chair that was clearly reserved. A seat that made people stare. Grant's stare burned across the room, furious and confused. He still didn't know who she was anymore. He still thought she was breakable. Junseo leaned close, voice meant only for her. "You will not speak first," he murmured. Kalia swallowed. "You don't get to." His gaze flicked to her, and it wasn't anger. It was something quieter and more dangerous. "I'm keeping you alive," he said. "Argue later." The first test arrived with a man named Mason Briggs, Brooklyn's messenger. Slick smile, expensive watch, a gaze that lingered on Kalia like he was choosing where to cut. "Mr. Calm," Mason said smoothly. "Happy birthday, Eve." Junseo's response was minimal. "Mason." Mason's eyes slid to Kalia. "And this must be?" Kalia felt the room tighten. Junseo placed his hand on her thigh under the table, firm, steady, claiming. He didn't look at her. "My wife," he said. Kalia forced a smile. Kalia calm. The lie tasted strange. Mason raised his brows. "Wife? That's new." Junseo's tone didn't change. "Not for me." Mason chuckled. "Brooklyn doesn't like surprises." Junseo lifted his glass slowly. "Brooklyn will adjust." The temperature in the room dropped. Either from the AC or from the way Junseo's calm could turn into threat without changing volume. Mason leaned closer, voice lower, like a friend. "Where do you meet our boss's golden boy, Mrs. Kong?" Kalia's mind raced. Junseo's thumb pressed lightly against her thigh. One quiet beat, like a metronome, steady. Kalia chose the truth wrapped in a lie. "Los Angeles," she said. "Work." Mason smiled wider. "And you married him without telling anyone." Kalia held his gaze. "When you know, you know." For the first time, Junseo looked at her fully. Something flickered, surprise, approval. He kept under control. Then he turned back to Mason. "Anything else?" Mason's smile thinned. "Brooklyn will want to meet her properly." Kalia's stomach twisted. Properly didn't sound like dinner. Mason stepped back, eyes lingering on Kalia. "Enjoy the night." When he walked away, Kalia finally breathed. Junseo didn't move his hand. If anything, his grip tightened like he'd sensed her fear. Kalia whispered, "They're going to hurt me." Junseo's voice was quiet. "They will try." Kalia's eyes flashed. "So why did your mother?" Junseo cut in. "Because my father promised Brooklyn a marriage alliance." Kalia froze. A wife they could control. Junseo's jaw flexed once. "Yes." Kalia stared at him, horror crawling up her spine. "So I'm bait." Junseo's gaze held hers. "Tonight, you are cover." "That's not better." "It's the only reason you're still breathing," he said, and there was no softness in it, only truth. And then, mini cliffhanger, right on schedule, Kalia's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. A photo, taken from across the room. Kalia, sitting beside Junseo. Junseo's hand on her thigh, and text beneath it. "You look good beside him. Too bad you won't leave with him." Kalia's blood went cold. She turned her phone toward Junseo. His eyes didn't widen. He didn't panic. He simply went still in a way that made the men behind him shift. Then he leaned close, voice low, lethal. "Do exactly what I say," he murmured. Kalia swallowed. "What are you going to do?" Junseo's gaze cut toward the exits. "I'm going to end this," he said. But what Kalia didn't know, what she couldn't know yet, was that Brooklyn wasn't the only enemy inside that ballroom. Someone in Junseo's own circle had given them her number. And in less than 10 minutes, the birthday Eve dinner would turn into a war zone. If you're loving this story, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me, should Kalia forgive this lie or make him bleed for it? Subscribe for more, because the next part is where Grant Weller learns what it feels like to lose everything. The confrontation didn't happen in the ballroom. That would have been too clean, too public. Brooklyn wanted control, not chaos. So they waited until Kalia was moved. After the dinner, after toasts and fake laughter and careful smiles, Madame Kong guided Kalia toward a private corridor lined with framed black and white photos of old New York, old money, old violence hidden behind elegance. Kalia's lips still throbbed. Her hands still shook when she thought about Grant's smile. And Grant followed. He cornered her near a gilded mirror, away from the main crowd, where the carpet muffled sound and the air smelled like roses trying to cover cigar smoke. "Look at you," Grant murmured, voice slick with disbelief. "You always did know how to chase rich rooms." Kalia's chest tightened. The rage came hot, but she kept her voice steady. "You hit me," she said. Grant smirked. "You fell into glass. Don't be dramatic. You split my lip." He leaned closer, eyes narrowing like he wanted the last word to hurt. "Still playing victim, I see." Kalia's hands trembled at her sides. 3 years. She thought she was past this. Past him. But seeing him brought it back. Sleeping in her car, empty stomach, clinic bathroom, blood, loss. Grant tilted his head. "So what's this? You hire muscle to pretend you matter." Kalia didn't answer, because if she opened her mouth right, then she might scream. Grant's smile turned cruel. "You know what I remember most? You crying, begging, acting like that baby was going to make me stay." Kalia's vision tunneled. She whispered, "Don't." Grant shrugged. It wasn't even a real baby yet. That sentence broke something in her. Kalia's voice cracked. "You destroyed me." Grant laughed softly. "No, you destroyed yourself. You were always too needy, Kalia. Too much. Thank God I got out when I did." And then he shoved her. Hard. Kalia stumbled backward into a decorative metal console table. Her elbow slammed the edge, pain flashing white-hot, and she hit the carpet, breath leaving her lungs in a shocked gasp. Blood welled immediately where her skin split. For a moment, the corridor went silent. Grant stood over her, contempt twisting his mouth. "Stay down where you belong," he sneered. "You worthless." He didn't finish, because the air changed. Footsteps, multiple, military precise. Then Kong Jinseo appeared at the end of the corridor. He'd come straight from whatever private meeting he'd been pulled into, still in his suit, still composed. But there was nothing civilized in his face now. His eyes were black with fury. 6 men followed behind him, all in black, all armed, all expressionless. Even the hallway lights seemed colder. Grant straightened, startled. Who the hell? Jinseo didn't look at him. He went straight to Kalia. He crouched, not caring about the expensive carpet, and his hands that could end lives, hovered over her elbow with a gentleness that didn't match the violence in his eyes. "Let me see," he said. Kalia tried to laugh it off. "It's just..." Jinseo's voice sharpened. "Let me see." He examined the wound, his fingers careful, trembling with contained rage. "You're bleeding," he murmured, and it sounded like an oath. "You're crying. Someone put their hands on you in violence." Kalia swallowed hard, throat tight. She hated that her eyes watered, hated that Grant could still pull weakness out of her like a hook. Jinseo lifted his gaze to her face. For 1 second, the fury softened. "My wife," he said quietly. "My woman." Then he stood, and the softness vanished like it had never existed. Jinseo turned to Grant. His voice dropped, gentle, almost polite. "Point him out," he said, to Kalia. Kalia's breath shook. She lifted her hand and pointed at Grant. Grant scoffed, trying to recover his arrogance. "Listen, man, I don't know what she told you. She's unstable. She's obsessed. Jinseo crossed the distance in 3 strides. He grabbed Grant by the throat with one hand, lifted him, and slammed him into the wall hard enough the framed photo beside them rattled. Grant's feet dangled. His face turned red as he clawed at Jinseo's grip. Jinseo leaned in, voice calm, eyes dead. "My name is Kong Jinseo," he said, loud enough that anyone nearby could hear. "And the woman you put your hands on is my wife." Grant choked out a laugh that sounded like panic. "Wife? She's lying." Jinseo's grip tightened slightly. "Do you understand what that means?" he asked. Grant's eyes watered. He couldn't speak. Jinseo's tone stayed even. It means you just signed your own death warrant. Kalia's heart pounded. Grant had stolen from her, abandoned her, mocked her dead child, and now he was finally afraid. Jinseo released him abruptly. Grant collapsed, coughing, sliding down the wall. Grant wheezed. You're crazy. Jinseo didn't look at him again. He pulled out his phone. One call. His men shifted, listening. Jinseo spoke quietly, in Korean, then ended the call. Grant coughed and tried to stand. What are you doing? Jinseo's eyes flicked to him. Arctic. Let me explain, Jinseo said. You stole from her. You ruined her life. You made her bleed tonight. You made her cry. His voice lowered, almost intimate. So now I ruin yours. Grant's laugh sounded hysterical. You can't. Who do you think you are? Jinseo's answer was simple. I own this city in ways you can't comprehend. He gestured slightly. One of his men stepped forward and held out a folder. Kalia's stomach tightened as she saw the name on the front. Grant Weller, financial fraud / multiple victims. Jinseo spoke like he was reading a menu. By tomorrow morning, your fiancé will end your engagement publicly. By noon, your father will remove you from the company. By evening, your trust fund will be frozen. Within a week, you'll be unemployable. Grant's face drained of color. You're bluffing. Jinseo didn't blink. The money you stole from her? I already seized it. Kalia's breath caught. Jinseo turned slightly toward her, voice softening just enough to include her. I found the other women, he said. 3. You did the same thing to them. Kalia's throat tightened. Jinseo's gaze returned to Grant. They will receive restitution too. Grant's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Jinseo leaned closer, voice dropping into a quiet threat that made Grant shiver. You will issue a public apology, Jinseo said. You will never come within 100 meters of my wife again. And if you do, if you even try, then I'll stop being reasonable. Grant started shaking his head, scrambling. Please, listen. I'm sorry, okay? I didn't. Jinseo cut him off with a look. Then, finally, he turned to Kalia. His eyes searched her face, as if he needed her consent, as if her pain mattered more than his pride. Do you want me to stop? He asked quietly. The corridor held its breath. Kalia's mind flashed back. $38,420.77 gone. Her car seat digging into her back. The clinic bathroom. Grant's message. His laughter just now about her baby not being real. She looked at Grant, pathetic now, terrified now, and felt something settle inside her. Not cruelty. Closure. No. Kalia said softly. I don't want you to stop. Jinseo's jaw flexed. Approval. Relief. Something possessive. Kalia pushed herself up, ignoring the ache in her elbow, and faced Grant fully. You thought I'd always be that broken girl you left behind, she said, voice shaking but clear. You thought you could take everything and still stand over me like you were right. Grant swallowed hard, eyes darting. Kalia lifted her chin. I survived you, she said. I thrived without you. And now you'll spend the rest of your life watching me live, while you're warned away like a disease. She turned away. That, more than Jinseo's threats, destroyed Grant. Because narcissists can survive hate. They can't survive being irrelevant. Jinseo stepped beside Kalia, close enough that she felt his heat, his cologne, the steady presence of him. Let's go, he said. As they walked away, Grant's world was already collapsing. The drive back to Jinseo's penthouse was quiet. New York blurred outside the windows, lights streaking like wet paint, sirens distant, the city alive and indifferent. Inside the car, the silence felt heavy, but not empty. Jinseo sat close enough that Kalia could feel him without touching. When they arrived, he didn't hand her off to staff. He took her straight to a private bathroom, warm lights, marble counters, towels that felt like clouds. He cleaned her elbow himself. His hands were steady now, gentle, careful, like he was making something sacred out of something ugly. Kalia watched him, throat tight. You didn't have to do all that, she whispered. Jinseo didn't look up. Yes, I did. For me. He met her eyes, and the honesty there hit harder than any clutch. For you, he said. And for me. Because I won't live in a world where people can touch you like that. Kalia swallowed. Your mother, she used me. Jinseo's gaze darkened. She did what she thought she had to. And you? Kalia asked. Did you? A long pause. Then Jinseo exhaled, quiet, controlled. I didn't plan to want you, he said. That part is the problem. Kalia's heartbeat stumbled. He wrapped the bandage, then cupped her face, thumb brushing near her swollen lip with a tenderness that didn't match the violence he'd shown minutes earlier. You can leave, he said, voice low. If you want to. Kalia laughed once, breathless. Can I? Jinseo's eyes held hers. If at any point you want to leave, you tell me. No questions asked. Kalia stared at him, searching for the trap. He didn't blink. He meant it. And that was what frightened her most, because she could feel herself wanting to stay. 2 weeks later, Kalia was sitting with a cup of tea she didn't remember asking for when her phone buzzed. Deposit, $38,420.77. Then another line, compensation added, $12,000. Kalia stared at the screen until her eyes burned. She remembered having $17 in her account, counting pennies for gas. She remembered praying not for happiness, just for survival. Now the money was back. Not because the world suddenly became fair, because a dangerous man decided her pain mattered. She didn't spend it on clothes. She didn't buy revenge luxury. She opened a document and started writing a plan. A foundation. A real one. For women who got financially abused, trapped, emptied out by men who knew exactly what they were doing. Emergency housing links. Legal support. Therapy grants. Job training. A place where shame didn't get to win. When she told Jinseo, he listened without interrupting. Then he said, I'll match it. Kalia blinked. Why? His mouth twitched slightly, almost a smile. Because you turn pain into purpose. And I respect that. Months later, the headlines about Grant weren't dramatic. They were worse. Former finance executive removed amid fraud allegations. Engagement ended after disturbing revelations. Trust fund frozen pending investigation. Kalia didn't celebrate loudly. She just breathed easier. And on a quiet night, when the city outside was soft with rain and Jinseo's arms were around her, Kalia realized something that felt like freedom. Grant didn't own her story anymore. She did. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you for watching Revenge Cafe. If you felt that moment when Kalia said, no, don't stop, hit like. Subscribe for more Afro-Korean dark romance, where justice hits back and love is dangerous in the best way. And comment below, what was your favorite part, Grant's downfall, or Jinseo's quiet promise that she could leave whenever she wanted? Until next time, remember, you are always worth protecting.